I'm not sure how to see how many people are here. Oh, just one besides us. Welcome. It is the top of the hour. We have a few other people logging in. So we appreciate those of you who were prompt and on time. We will get started in about 2 minutes. And a typo there. Thanks you for joining. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you being here on time. We do have an early bird gift. So those of you who are here by 5 after get a very cool early bird gift. So thank you for being here. If you're just joining us, thank you. We appreciate you being here. We'll get started in about 1 to 2 minutes. We see a few other people that are logging in, and then we will kick off the session. All right, about 30 more seconds. Thank you for joining early. Feel free in the chat box to put what industry you're in. So if you do IT services or janitorial or logistics or food service or you sell products, whatever it is, feel free to put that in the chat box. Thank you, Mr. Samuel. Huh. Your last name is the city I live in. I live in Hammond, Louisiana. Maybe it was named after your family. All right, we are at 2 minutes after the hour. We do appreciate everybody being here. We're going to go ahead and get started. We know a few more people will be logging in. We do appreciate your time. It's the most valuable thing you have. You'll get more money, you'll get more houses, you get more cars, but you won't get this next 6 hours that we spend together. Okay, I'm lying. It's only 90 minutes. You won't get this next 90 minutes back. So we want to make it as valuable as possible. Feel free throughout the day to put in lacking confidence. All right, we can absolutely address that. So thank you, Flashbacks. Feel free to put questions in the chat box. We will pause a few times throughout the presentation to ask questions. And if you want to address anything, go ahead and put it in there. So Flashbacks told us lacking confidence and proposals bid. We'll actually talk about some tools that are available for that. And that is one of the biggest challenges in the government contracting space is writing a proposal that's attractive and meets all the requirements. So thank you for participating. We absolutely appreciate it. So we know that small business owners are heroes. With an idea and a lot of hard work, you create magic and drive the economy. Well over half of all the revenue that the IRS and that the government receives comes from small businesses and their employees. And we deserve to get some of that back. That's exactly how I got into government contracting. I took a class with GCA called Certified Capture Manager class back in 2017. And I met a lady who was doing government contracting, asked me if I wanted to work with her and do some training for government employees. And my comment was, absolutely. They take enough of my money. I want to get some of it back. So let's start figuring out how to get some of that money back that the IRS takes from us every year and all the different places that we pay taxes. So who's on the call? We have, thank you, Samuel, IT. That's awesome. IT is a huge component of the government space right now, obviously. So capture managers are, for those of you who are newer to the government space, capture manager is just somebody who does sales in the government market. In the commercial market, it's often called account managers or business development reps. They have different titles. For the government space, it's called capture manager. By far, the biggest group that we work with is small government contractors. These are companies who have already started winning contracts or have been trying to win contracts, but maybe haven't had any success yet. or companies who are just kind of putting their toe in the water and say, is government contracting even for me? We're definitely going to address that today. We quite often get HR managers, business owners who are looking to hire sales reps or capture managers. Because one of our divisions is a Capture Management Institute, very similar to the Project Management Institute for anybody who knows what a PMP is. We have a lot of capture managers in our circle of influence. And so businesses will come to us and say, we need to hire a sales rep. Do you have anybody who is certified or who can help me out in the sales arena? Which we absolutely like to partner with companies like that. So the biggest question that everybody always has when they come to us is, will you win contracts? Or will I win a contract, guy? And the reality, that depends on your strategy. Just like everything in life, whether starting your business and growing it, whether losing weight, whether you played a sport and you had a strategy for exercising, working out, getting better, everything that you've done in your life that you've been successful, you had a good, solid strategy. The other side of that is implementation, and we're going to talk about tools that will help you with that as well. We are an association of government contractors with one goal, and that's to help you. There's about 22,000 associations in the United States today, and every one of them has one goal, and that's to help their members be more successful. There's IT associations, logistics associations, doctors associations, contractors, electrical associations, just about anything that you can imagine. There's an association designed to support their members. And they do a lot of things, sometimes in the background that you don't always see up front. They do lobbying, they do reach out to certain groups that might be helpful. And GCA is no different. Our goal just happens to be to help contractors win government contracts. So for those of you who are here, I told you everybody who arrived by 5 after, which is about where we are now, gets our early bird gift. So if we don't have your email, if you didn't register through one of our portals, if you came in maybe through LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube or any of our social media outreach, please, if you would like our free gifts, we're going to have more free gifts throughout the day, as well as you can get a copy of this recording in case you hear something you go, oh, that was really intriguing. I'd like to watch that again. At this point, please put your email in the chat box. We'll capture that and we will get you some free gifts. And then we'll also, it takes a few hours for StreamYard to render the video. Once the video is rendered, then we will get that over to you. So if you would like the free gifts, if you would like the recording of today's session, please put your email address in the chat box and we will get everything to you. So there, as I said, there are more free gifts throughout the day. Right at the end, we have a very cool free gift that is something that we've got approved by several contracting officers that they really like it. And so it's a tool that you want to stay around. If there's any way you can stay with us until 5:30 East Coast time or 2:30 Pacific time, if you can stay with us during this whole session, we've got some cool things at the end for you also. So if you're going to start working with a company, you always have to wonder, who am I really working with? Well, the founder of our company, his name is Abraham Zhang. He's a small business advocate, business coach. He's an author, written books. He's a speaker. He's traveled quite a bit speaking, as well as he speaks virtually. And he was actually born in a country called Laos. And when he was 6 years old, the communists from China moved into Laos and his family fled. They had no idea where they were going to go. They were refugees. And they got into Thailand, and a church group up in Ohio sponsored his family to come to the United States. They arrived in the United States with 5 small children, mom and dad, and about $20 American in their pocket. All they knew how to do was farm, and they had no idea what they were going to do. But this church group loved them. They helped them get housing. They helped them find jobs and learn the language. And so Abe grew up in a country that he loves greatly, because the country took him in, the people took him in, they helped his family, and it gave him a couple of passions. One for the country, and one is to help other people. He's pretty much been a lifelong entrepreneur. His entire adult life, he worked in corporate America for 5 months and decided it wasn't for him. His actual first job he had was he had a baseball card and comic shop. Right after he graduated from high school, he had been saving up money, doing odd jobs. He invested in a baseball card and comic book shop, worked that for a few years and sold it, and decided that he wanted to be a missionary and spread the gospel. Since the church family had helped his family so much, he wanted to take the word back to Laos and share the gospel. He got to Thailand, couldn't get across the border because the communists were keeping the border closed. And as a result, he stayed in Thailand for about another year and a half, but his heart wasn't really in it. He wanted to spread the gospel in Laos, and he was getting low on funds. Any of you that know anything about missionaries, they don't get paid. They have to raise their own money. So he came back to the States with about $300 in his pocket. And he started a furniture company. He actually found somebody. He met someone who said they needed some office dividers. And he actually knew somebody who had some office dividers. So he went and found out how much the dividers were, went and got a deposit from the person who needed them, went and picked them up, delivered them, and then paid for them, and turned that into his second successful business. He grew it to over $10 million in inventory. He sold the business and started real estate investing, was heavily invested. He had 5 companies around real estate investing. He had a rehab company. He had a real estate license. He was selling things. He had his own mortgage brokerage. He went all in and had millions of dollars invested in this business. And then the real estate bubble burst. We all know what happened back in 2007, 2008, where the housing market went under. And so he had millions of dollars in real estate that he couldn't sell because the banks wouldn't loan anything. And he couldn't sell any houses as a realtor because nobody was buying anything. And so he was on the verge of bankruptcy. Things were really crazy. He had an office building there in Atlanta, pretty nice office. And he was walking through the conference room one day, and there was a gentleman who had just finished up a meeting. And so they started chatting. And Abe asked him what he did. And he said, well, I was a contracting officer in the Army. I was in the Army for 27 years. The last 11 years, I was a contracting officer. And I've awarded about $5 billion in government contracts. And I want to help businesses because so many times people would submit a proposal and it was missing something. And I thought they would have done a good job. I would like to have awarded them the contract, but they didn't dot their I's and cross their T's. And as a contracting officer, I have to follow what's called the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulation. And so I decided when I got out, I wanted to help businesses start learning to win government contracts. And Abe said, how's it going? And he said, well, I've been out for 4 months now and I don't have any clients yet. I'm getting frustrated. So Abe said, well, how are you marketing? He said, well, when I was getting out, I had a website built. Okay, well, websites are important. How are you marketing? He said, well, I had a website built. Well, for those of you in business, know that just having a static website somewhere is not going to drive enough traffic. So he said, well, Abe said, I might be able to help. He goes, well, what do you do? He said, well, most recently I've been doing real estate investing, and I had 5 businesses tied into real estate, but then I also had an office business, office furniture business. I also had a baseball card shop. He said, my passion is helping people and building businesses. So a little light bulb came on top of both of their heads, and they're like, maybe we should work together. So for the next 3 years, they worked together, helping businesses learn to win contracts. And then after 3 years, the retired contracting officer said, I just want to go play golf. This is too much work. I put 27 years in the Army. I've worked with you for 3 years. So Abe bought him out and changed it from a consulting firm, which was pretty high dollar, to an association. I actually need to update this. We had one of our members recently get a contract. Several clients actually were over $2 billion. And just to put that in perspective, 1 million seconds is 12 days. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. 1 million seconds is 12 days. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. We've helped companies win over $2 billion. We can't even hardly conceive that number. Because of his heart and so many people he's helped, he has won the President Obama Lifetime Achievement Award. He's been awarded the Global Humanitarian Award. And Brian Kemp, who was the governor of Georgia when he was Secretary of State several years ago, he asked Abe to be a Goodwill Ambassador for the state of Georgia. So that's the heart of who drives this company. So you might be thinking, well, why is he not doing this presentation? Well, he's the president of a very busy company. A little bit about me. When I was young, I was always the last kid picked, and I got bullied a lot. And there were 3 reasons. One is I was always the smallest kid in class. My mom was only about 5 foot tall. My dad was about average height, but I took after my mom until about 3rd or 4th grade. I finally had a little growing spurt. So I was always really little, which means you're going to get picked on. My dad was cheap, so he gave me a buzz haircut. So I always just had this little stubby hair when I was a little kid. When you're in 1st, 2nd grade, kids are brutal. And I have a funny name, Guy Burns. Hey, that guy burns me up. So I was a little kid with funny hair and a funny name. I had the trifecta of being bullied. And I never really thought about how that affected me as I was growing up until I started taking psychology classes and studying it. And what I realized is I've always voted for the underdog. If I'm watching a basketball game or football game, and I don't really care who wins, or none of them are my favorite teams, if somebody's behind, I always hope they catch up. Or if I see the odds, I lived in Vegas for about 20 years, and so I used to follow sporting odds pretty closely. And if I see somebody was a 7-point underdog or a 10-point underdog, I hope they won. And I never really understood that until I studied everything. So when I got out of high school, went into the Navy, became a nuclear qualified electrician, ran around on submarines. You can see my submarines behind me. Was an electrician on the nuclear power plants on the submarines, got out and did electrical work, and realized that, like Abe, I didn't really like corporate America that much. So I started my own electrical service and handyman business, and I started taking a lot of classes for marketing and sales. I figured if I was going to grow my business, I needed to know as much as I could. So I invested a lot of money, probably $10,000, in different courses and books and videos and all the things that I could do to grow my business. Well, my business started growing pretty well. I brought some people on, and I even started helping some of the people that I subbed work to, but also there were contractors who subbed work to me. I started giving them some marketing tips and ideas, and they really liked it. And I realized that I liked that training part. I liked helping others. And at the same time that I was running my electrical service business, like Abe, I was investing in real estate. We wouldn't meet each other for another 10 years, but we were both investing in real estate. I had about 14 properties when the bubble started bursting. And fortunately, I saw it happening. In 2006, I started liquidating properties. I had 14 properties in summer of 2006. By the time the market started crashing, I only had 3 properties left. So I didn't get hurt too bad. A couple of them I did okay. One of them I lost quite a bit of money, only about $150,000. But I got out from under it pretty quickly. And I decided, well, I always enjoyed teaching. Why don't I try to do that? So for the next few years, I started starting a sales training company, even though I still had my electrical service company running on the side to help pay the bills. And after about 3 or 4 years, I was able to close that down. And now, since 2010, I have been making my living full time doing training. I've been to 30 countries now. I've spoken professionally in a lot of them. Over 100,000 people have been to my presentations. And in 2015, I was speaking at an event. A lady came up to me and said, I like your training style. Would you be interested in selling, or would you be interested in teaching government employees? And I said, sure. You heard me earlier say they take enough of my money in taxes. I'd love to get some of it back. So I started contracting with her to do training for government employees. And I started, I took my class at Government Contractors Association. She said, you know, if you're going to be serious about this, you should get educated. She said, the reason I do so well in government contracting is I took a class at GCA. So if you're interested, here's the link. And she sent me over. So in 2017, I took a class at GCA. I was so impressed with Abe's heart, with the quality of the materials, that I told him, I said, I have my own coaching clients. I definitely can't work for you full time. Plus, they were in Atlanta. I was living in Tampa at the time, and a lot of their classes were done in person. So I said, is there some way we can work together? And he said, sure. We teach a lot of in-person classes, but we follow up with students on video calls. So if you wanted to take our coaching program and become a certified coach with us, then you can start helping people with their homework and answering questions about proposals and answering questions about opportunities. So you could make some extra cash, and it would help us. So we did that until about 2020, when COVID hit and everybody had to start flying. I couldn't go see my clients anymore. So I started doing more and more classes. So over the last 4 years, my relationship with GCA has grown to the point where I'm the lead trainer now. So what are you going to learn today? You're going to learn to win contracts without spending 3 years spinning your wheels. On average, when somebody registers in SAM, and that stands for System for Award Management, when somebody registers in SAM, it takes them about 3 years to really get a rhythm. And that's because usually they're running their commercial side of their business to pay the bills, and they're trying to learn all the red tape and the language and where to find opportunities and how to write proposals, and it just takes a long time. Our goal is to cut that path way, way shorter. So some people say, well, do agencies even need what I have? Okay. Well, there's about 85,000 government entities. You might be thinking, oh, come on, guy, how can there be 85,000? Well, first, there's obviously a federal government, 24 federal departments, and then a lot of the departments have sub-agencies. Like HHS has 12 agencies. DOD has about 15 or 20. They have the four main services, but they have a whole bunch of other divisions. You got 50 states, 3,000 counties, 36,000 cities, 14,000 districts, 31,000 special districts. Those are temporary, usually anywhere from about 3 to 5 years. The government will want to pump money into maybe an area that is economically depressed. If they close a military base in an area, they'll often set up a special district to help pump money in that, so the town doesn't go out of not being viable anymore. And then we have 5 U.S. territories. And Uncle Sam really does want you to take his money. It is absolutely impossible for the government to function without vendors like you and me. The federal government's the world's largest customer. It's open to any business and it buys virtually everything. To start working with us, we always interview you before you take some of our classes to make sure that you're a good match and that we're a good match. I probably interview 300 people before I find one person that doesn't have something the government wants. One time a young lady sold lip balm that she made from organic plants that she grew on her own. And she could make like 20 things of lip balm a day or something like that. And, the government buys 50,000 at a time. She wasn't a good match. There was nothing that she could do for the government. But the mass majority of companies, like I say, I'll interview 300 and one or two won't have a product or service that makes sense. So it's pretty dang good chance the government needs you. So as we said, IT is one of the hottest industries right now. Last year, they spent about $32 billion in IT. There was 107,000 contracts, and the average was about $300,000 for a contract. And obviously, some of those might have been 10 or 15,000 small projects, $10 or $15,000 small projects, and some of them might have been, $1 million or $1 billion, something like that. Probably not billion, but millions of dollars in government contracts for IT. Construction. The government's constantly building new buildings, renovating old buildings. The $28 billion was spent, 137,000 contracts, and the average contract was about 200,000. And janitorial and IT services surprises a lot of people. The facilities management was 20 billion, which is smaller than these other two, but look at the size of the contract, $446,000. Well, that's a lot, guy, for janitorial or facilities maintenance and management. Why is it so much? The government, if they have a site that has 10 buildings on it, they don't want to hire 10 contractors to manage those buildings. They want to hire one contractor to manage 10 buildings. So if you do janitorial or logistics or something, you might think, well, that's too big for me. I can't do, millions of dollars this year. I don't have the infrastructure. That's okay. Write this down for those of you taking notes. Something called OPE, other people's efforts. We can teach you how to win contracts, work with other companies, and they provide a lot of the services, and then you keep a piece of it for managing it. So it is absolutely possible to get huge contracts. We'll show you a couple of examples of companies who won contracts that seem almost unfathomable for a small business, and we'll show you how they did it. So why would you do government contracting? You've probably heard that it's kind of a pain in the butt, and it is. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a new language to learn. There is a learning curve here. So some people think, that's just not for me. But for those of you who are serious about having a multiple stream of income for your business, you're in the right place. Imagine having access to $700 billion. Again, we can't even conceive 1 billion, let alone 700 billion. That's what was awarded to the private sector last year. That's about 1.9 billion a day, about almost 80 million an hour, 1.33 million per minute, or $22,000 a second. We've been on the call now for just about a half hour. That means statistically the government has awarded about $40 million in awards just since we got on this call. Not bad. So last year there was a little over 6 million contracts that were awarded to the private sector. The average contract was a little over $100,000. And there's about 600,000 contractors that have registered in System for Award Management, or SAM. Unfortunately, less than half of all the contractors who have ever registered have won a contract. They watch a couple of videos, they see that they have to get registered in SAM, they go through the process, they either do it themselves or they pay somebody, they get all registered, and then they get lost and they're just confused and frustrated. So why would you do it now? Is now really a good time to get into government? Well, this is government spending. And the only reason that there was a little bit downturn here is obviously 2020 when COVID hit, they spent massive money. So it jumped up, went back down a little bit, and it continues to grow. Okay. The government's never going to stop spending money with companies like yours and mine. They're always going to need products. They're always going to need services. Just in the last 10 years alone, there's been a 53% increase. Okay. And we know that the government always has money. As I said earlier, Uncle Sam really does want you to take his money. But what's weird is while spending went up by 53%, in 2012, about 120,000 small businesses won contracts. In 2022, 10 years later, only 71,000 won contracts, a 40% decrease. So spending went up by 53%, but there's a lot less small contractors. You're actually going to get a template today, Mr. Williams, Mr. or Miss Williams. I'm not sure, T. Williams. If you stay with us till the end, I'll actually give you a very cool template that we've ran past several contracting officers, and they really like it. So we'll even show you how to do that, how to use it, and it will be very, very useful. So you might be thinking, well, if the government's spending more and more money, why are less companies winning contracts? Because unfortunately, they keep changing the rules, and it's hard to stay on top of it. Maybe you win a contract, it's a 2-year contract or 3-year contract, you're busy doing that, and in a couple of years, you go back and you want to win another contract, but the rules have changed, so you have to start learning all over, and that's really frustrating. We're going to show you how to stay on top of that. So small business percentages. According to the SBA, 99.7% of all businesses in the United States are small businesses. Yet last year, out of about $700 billion that was awarded, we only won about $140 billion. About 20% was awarded to small businesses. So even though we represent a huge percentage, there is definitely a good old boys club. The big companies who know all the politicians and know all the people that are making decisions, they tend to do really well for themselves. Minorities aren't getting their share. About 35% of the population today is minority, but last year they only got 5%, 5.4% were awarded to minority-owned businesses, 8A certified businesses, which is pretty frustrating because it's just a tiny little sliver of all of the money. And women, even worse actually, 41% of all businesses in the United States today, according to Business Week, are owned by women. There's over 30,000 registered in SAM. Last year, they only got $32 billion. And here's what's really frustrating. The government set a goal. They imposed a goal on themselves. Actually, Congress wrote a law into the FAR that says every agency must give 5% of their contracting dollars to small women-owned businesses. And yet last year, it was only 4.6. They've only ever hit that goal twice. It's been a goal for almost 20 years now. And in 2015 and 2019, they barely hit the 5% goal. Every other year, they still miss the goal. Well, that's confusing. If the government says, I want to give small women-owned businesses 5% of my dollars, why do they miss that goal? Well, the biggest reason is because small businesses aren't asking. Women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned, they're just not asking for it. And you're sitting there thinking, well, I'll ask. I want some of it. Well, why aren't they asking? Imagine if you knew that there was a big pile of money, and to get to it, you had to get through a maze. So you would come to the entrance of that maze, and you would head down in there, and you go, I'm going to get to that money. Well, the problem is you get partway into the maze, and then you see that it's an IDIQ contract. Well, you're not sure what an IDIQ contract is. So you have to go back and study and figure it out. By the time you get it all figured out, that one's gone. So you work your commercial business a little bit more, make some more cash, and then you go in and it says you have to be registered in WAWF to bid on this contract. Well, you're not registered in WAWF or IPP. So now you have to do some more studying. As we said, 600,000 companies have registered in System for Award Management. Less than 300,000 of them have made it to that pile of money. That means this maze is littered with 300,000 businesses who were never able to get there. And that's what GCA does. We've been doing this now since 2007. We started as a consulting firm. 2007, we became an association. So almost 20 years now, we've been helping businesses win government contracts. Even with our help, I can guarantee you it's not going to be a straight path. You might decide that Health and Human Services is a great opportunity for you. So you start down that path, and then you find out that Homeland Security is rolling out a new initiative that's perfect for you. So then you decide to go over to Homeland Security and you spend some time over there. Then somebody else rolls something out. Or maybe you go down and you get disheartened because you did miss a contract and you do have to take a break and make some more money in the commercial market. What we can guarantee you is we can get you to that pile of money. The question here, the question we ask, or the statement we say here at GCA, is the question is not if you'll win a contract, the question is when. We've helped too many businesses make too much money to wonder if this works. When we first started back in 2010, 2011, 2012, and we were just getting a little bit of success, and I say we, I obviously wasn't there till 2017 when I started working with the company, but they wondered, are we really on the right path here? We don't have to wonder anymore. We've helped companies win over $2 billion. So how do we help you? Well, like most associations, as we said, there's about 22,000 associations in the United States. All associations educate their members. Some of it's on the industry, some of it's on regulations coming down. There's always some component of education. Maybe they teach you marketing principles, different things like that. The next one we do is we facilitate. We make it easier. We do that through software. We do it through templates. We do it through ways to build relationships, which is absolutely critical in the government space, building relationships. So we make it easier for you. And then we advocate. We do a lot of things behind the scenes. For example, tomorrow at noon, if any of you guys have a chance, you can be my guest. It's normally there's a fee for it, but I'm going to have my producer's going to put a link in the chat, and I will share that with you. And Oak Ridge National Laboratories is a division of the Department of Energy. And what they do is once a year, we have a relationship with them so that once a year we can, there you go. So you should all be able to see the link now that Mr. Hubert, our producer, put in the chat. And you can click on that link or copy and paste it and click on it after class or after the session's over. I'll invite you to come to this event. Oak Ridge National Laboratory is going to tell them who they need. Do they need IT? Do they need janitorial? Do they need logistics? Do they need products? What is it that they need? You can come to that event, and one of the contracting officers over there, they're very gracious. We have several organizations and agencies. We have the Air Force that we work with. So we have several groups that we work with and agencies. Because of our relationship, we bring them in and we advocate for you. We also do things behind the scene. We lobby. We do a lot of stuff that you'll never see up front. But this is one thing that you actually do get to experience. And you can be my guest to come to that tomorrow at noon East Coast time. You just go to govassociation.events, and right near the top of the page, it says Lunch and Learn Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So we look forward to seeing you there. So what are some of the strategies you can use to win? Well, first thing is there's what's called certification. The government is required to give small businesses a certain percent of their dollars, and we saw those numbers a little while ago. The 8A, which is nicknamed the minority business set aside, is about 5%. Service disabled veteran is 5%, which is what I am. Economically disadvantaged and woman-owned small business is 5%, and then Hub Zone, which tend to be economically depressed areas of cities where the government wants to put some money into. So if your office is in an area that maybe is a little bit economically depressed, then you can qualify as a Hub Zone. So the government sets aside specific contracts just for these certifications. Some of the other things that they do is veterans will get certain preference on certain types of contracts. If you are in an industry like janitorial or construction, anything where you use a lot of service personnel, if you hire people who live in government assisted housing, then it's easier to get HUD contracts. We can show you how to do that. Small disadvantaged businesses, the current administration, the Biden-Harris administration is working very hard to get all of the agencies to work with small disadvantaged business, which could be women-owned, minority-owned, different things like that. It's not a hard number like they have over here that Congress mandates, but the White House did put out a memorandum to all of their contracting officers that they want small businesses and women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses to get more contracts. And then the DOD has a self-imposed, these are all imposed by Congress, this is self-imposed. The DOD wants to work with historically black colleges and universities and minority institutes. Then states will have certifications, disadvantaged business enterprise, minorities, women. Virginia has small, women, and minority. So different states, different counties will have their own. Fulton County has, they're in Georgia, Cook County up in Chicago, LA County, Southern California. So they'll have their own designations. Then different cities will have their own certifications. And then big companies will have their own certifications. So one of the biggest things that we help people go through is which certifications do you do first? Because you could spend the next 7 years almost getting certified in every city and every county and every state and every agency, and you'd make yourself crazy and you wouldn't make any money. So one of the things that will help you do is decide which certifications make the most sense to me. And it will be a case by case by case individual basis. It won't be the same for everybody. So how does set-asides even help you? Well, when the government puts out a contract, remember Congress requires them to give 23% of their contracting dollars to small businesses. They will list it and it says total small business set aside. That means only small businesses can bid on it. Or it might say set aside for women-owned small business, set aside for minority or 8A business, set aside for service-disabled veteran business. So what it does is it makes it so you don't have to compete against hundreds of thousands of people. You might only be competing against 20 or 30 or 50. So it just makes it a lot easier for you to win contracts when you understand how that works. Sole source is kind of the holy grail of government contracting. It's normally done through relationships, and you're referred by another contracting officer, or maybe you've worked with an agency. And what the FAR allows companies to do, or agencies to do, is it's pretty expensive for them to write a proposal or an RFP, put it out there, get all the proposals in, review all the proposals, reward the contract, so they can actually save money by just picking a contractor. And they have certain rules that they have to follow. But just last year alone, over $12 billion was awarded to minority-owned businesses without ever having to write a proposal or research any opportunities. The contracting officer reached out to them and said, I would like you to be my vendor on this project. So how do you develop a strategy? Well, just like everything else in life that you've been successful at, you had a step-by-step process that took you where you were going. If you played school sports, they taught you the basics first. If you played basketball, they taught you to dribble a ball. If you played football, they taught you to, you did the wind sprints, and you practiced whatever your position was. You practiced blocking, and you practiced running. You had a step-by-step process. Well, this is no different. There's going to be a quiz at the end, so everybody take notes here. It's P plus P plus P plus P equals P. I hope you can remember that. Okay, I fibbed. There's no quiz. But P plus P plus P plus P plus P equals P seems pretty easy. What does it mean? Well, the first one is preparation. And this is probably the one that is most violated by by people who meet us. I had a company get on my calendar to have a meeting with me about 2 months ago. And we got chatting, and they said, we've submitted 7 proposals and haven't won any yet. Would you review our next couple of proposals? I said, absolutely. Our proposal writing team has written over 3,000 proposals. We've been very successful. But let me ask you a couple questions. Before we do that, can I see your capability statement? Can I see your website? What does your marketing materials look like? What outreach program do you have to state agencies and federal agencies? And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. We just want to submit bids. Well, that's not the way it works. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And there's a lot of strategies to make yourself look attractive to government buyers. But if a contracting officer goes to your website and there's no tab at the top that says government, they can't find your capability statement. They can't find your NAICS codes. They can't find how you want to support the government space. They'll just go to the next person. They're saying this person, this company doesn't even care enough to have a government page on their website. I'm not going to try to do business with them. So a lot of times, companies set themselves up for failure. They put proposal after proposal after proposal, and we've been told by multiple contracting officers, if I can't find a capability statement, I will just move on. I will not even talk to somebody. I won't even review a proposal if I don't have some way to get a good feel, a snapshot of that person. Another thing is the labor laws are different. We've had a lot of companies come to us and say, I got my first contract, I never got another one. Well, it might be because they violated some rules and they didn't even know it. And then how do you promote? How do you present yourself in a way the government, see, I have a template for my capability statement I worked on last night, but I could feel better. So yes, and that's a brilliant point. If any of you are watching the chat, T. Williams said, I have a template for my capability statement that I worked on last night, but I feel it could be better. Your message is just a mess with age. Nobody creates their first capability statement and it's beautiful and it's wonderful and it's awesome. I say nobody, I can't say that because there might be some graphic designer somewhere once that did it. But realize that there's several things that you need to have on it. It needs to look professional. It needs to look sharp, because if they look at it and they go, this is not very professional, they're probably not going to do a good job for me. So when you promote, when you create your capability statement, your page on your website, when you write your copy for that page, when you create your capabilities video, when you create your capabilities brief, when you're creating all of this, it needs to sizzle. It needs to look really sharp. So how do you present in a way that the government likes it? The next one is proposals. And that's kind of a two-parter. The first one is, where do you find opportunities even to write proposals on? And once you find the right opportunities, how do you write a proposal that's attractive? And the last one is performance. How do you deliver your products or services to the government in a way that they go, I want to work with them again? Okay, Samuel was awesome. We needed IT needs. He came in, he took care of it. His communication was clear. His billing was clean and on time, and he followed the rules. We want to do business with him again. But a lot of times people get in too early. They don't have enough knowledge to really do everything they need to do. They win that first contract because they're in the right place at the right time, but they just don't do that great of a job. Maybe their communications isn't clear. Maybe their compliance is not quite up to par. And so they never get that next contract. And obviously the goal for the businesses like ours is we want to make profit. Hopefully you're not in business just to make profit. Hopefully you're passionate about what you do. You at least like it. But if you're in it just for profit, people are going to sense it. But if you really believe in what you do, people will sense that also. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the cornerstone of everything that GCA is. It's called the Gov Fast Track software. As we said, GCA became an association in 2010. And when they did that, they did a lot of training. Every week they were doing classes on something: capability statements, opportunity searching, rules and regulations, mentor protege programs. They would be doing lessons all the time. The challenge was that people, after a little while, started saying, we wish that that we had more structure. So Abe and his team, this was 2014, Abe and his team took about 2 years and about 10,000 man hours, and they created this document. Oh, come on, guy, it's only 6 rows long. Why do they need 10 years? Okay, I mean, why do they need 2 years? Well, the reality is, if you look at this, the very last row is 966. Now, when this launched in 2016, it was 634 rows. And they broke it down into those 5 Ps that we were just talking about, or the 4 Ps plus profit. So when it first came out, it had 634 rows in 2016. And over the last year, we've added another 330 rows, about 50% more, and probably about another, 5, 6, 8,000 hours. Because government programs constantly change, thresholds change, new tools become available, new commercial entities become available with great tools and tips, and we add that in here. So this is think of it as a blueprint. If anybody has ever remodeled a house, or if anybody has ever had to read a blueprint or anything like that, this is really the blueprint to government contracting. And we took those 4 P's that we talked about, and we broke them into bite-sized chunks. So the first one is your assessment. Where am I today? If you get in your car and you're using your phone, or maybe you still use a GPS, which would be weird because hardly anybody has them anymore, but you decide that you're going to use your phone and you want to get to a store, or you want to get to a location. So you ask your phone for direction. Every once in a while, about once a quarter maybe, I have an iPhone, and about once a quarter, Siri will tell me, I don't know where we are. Then a few seconds later, she'll figure it out. So maybe I had just turned on the phone and it hasn't had a chance to acquire its location yet. What the assessment does is says, where am I today? Am I ready to even win contracts? And you notice it starts on row 4 here, and it goes to row 169. So there's 165 rows just making sure you're ready. Do you have the right business structure? Do you understand that the labor laws are different in the government space? Do you have the right, do you have your taxes set up properly? Do you carry the right insurance? Do you need bonding? Do you have the right people on your team? So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we help you assess where you are before you even jump into contracting. Now you know where you are. How do we figure out where we're going? And there's a whole section here. It starts on 171 and it ends on 244. So there's about 75 rows of tips and tools and techniques on how to build a strategy to start winning government contracts. So we go through each of these. Once you know where you are, where you want to go, then how do you learn things? What's the language of government contracting? If you went to college, you might have taken a psychology 101 or chemistry 101, or depending on what your major was. So we give you the basics, but we also help you learn the new language. Imagine moving to Japan and you couldn't speak the language. It would be pretty hard to start a business if you couldn't communicate. The same thing's true in the government space. This is one of the number one reasons that small businesses fail, is they don't speak the language, and the contracting officer gets an email from you and it doesn't have the right verbiage. They go, I'm just not going to work with this person. They're going to be hard. I'm going to have to hold their hand the whole way. They don't even know what the language is. I just can't work with them. It's not that they don't love you. It's just that they just can't. They don't have time. So we're going to build you that. Then where do you start registering? As I mentioned, there's a lot of places you can register. So how do you register with your state, your county, what federal agencies? How do you get your registration? And so we just go step by step. We won't do all of this today, but we teach you how to brand yourself properly, how to market, how to find the right opportunities, how to write attractive proposals, and to perform in a way that the government wants to keep doing business with you. So that is the Gov Fast Track software. This is a standalone product, by the way. Some people say, I don't have time to take classes right now, but I love the structure of that. I'd love to get that. And so if you have any questions, Mr. Hubert, our producer, is going to put my calendar link in the chat box, and you can hop on my calendar, ask me some questions, and we'll help you figure out which of these products, if any, are a good match for you. So there is my calendar link. So if you'd like to hop on my calendar, feel free to click that link. It will take you to my Google Calendar setup, and it will get us connected so we can have a time to chat with each other. At this point, if there's any questions, I've been kind of trying to keep up with the questions and comments as we've been going. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to put it in the chat box on how we might be able to help you. If you've seen anything that you weren't sure about, go ahead and put that in there, and we will address that. So we'll give everybody a few seconds to put any questions in the chat box. Let me go back and make sure. And those of you who joined us a little bit late, if you would like a copy of these, the video, or you'd like the free gifts that we have, you'll be getting some more free gift opportunities near the end of the class. Please make sure you put your email in. Thank you, Jonathan, Marina, Samuel, Delino, T. Williams. I don't know if we have your email yet, so please put that in the chat box. That way we can get you the free gifts as well as a copy of this video. Again, it does take a few hours for the podcast company StreamYard to render the video, so it usually goes out the next morning. So we will make sure you get that. Thank you, Sharonda. Appreciate that. We'll make sure you get a copy of the video as well as the free gifts. I'm going to go ahead and keep going. If you do have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat box, and then I will address those as they come in. So here's some of the people we helped. Do you help companies in the insurance industry? Absolutely, Jonathan. Insurance is an interesting industry because the government self-insures most of their things. So we have helped several companies in the insurance industry kind of come in through a different direction, through either admin support, through financial services connections. There's different things that we can do. And insurance is one of those companies that if you say, all I want to do is sell health insurance or all I want to do is sell life insurance to the government, it's not a good match. But if you're the type entrepreneur who thinks, yes, I can see that there's peripheral things that touch the insurance company that I could offer, then yes, we've worked with several companies in the insurance industry and helped them win government contracts. What is your opinion of Apex Accelerators, formerly PTACs? Apex Accelerators are awesome. When I first got into government contracting back in 2017, as you said, they were PTACs back then. I went there and I was living in Tampa, Florida at the time, or just outside Tampa. And my PTAC was there in Tampa. And about once a week, once every other week, they would have a class. They were in-person classes. I think they were $15. And one of them taught me to do a capability statement. They had one on opportunity searches, different things like that. And they are awesome. I actually got to meet with a coach twice. She gave me some insight, showed me some websites that were useful. The challenge with the Apex Accelerators is because they're free, they're overwhelmed. You know, dozens and dozens and dozens of people want to work with Apex Accelerators because they're free. And they have, you know, the office there in Tampa, which is a pretty big city, had 6 people total that worked in the office. And so I was allowed to meet twice with a person one-on-one. And then the rest of the time I went to classes and things like that. So they are good. And the DoD actually funds a lot of the Apex Accelerators also. OSBP is the body who kind of helps manage it, but the DoD actually funds the majority of the work at Apex Accelerator. So they absolutely have value. They are a tool that we recommend our students to work with. And so great question. Thank you, Delino. And thank you, Mr. Robert, for your email. We will definitely get out the free gifts to you as well as the copy of the recording. So Tasha was one of our very first people. We became an association in 2010. She came to us, and she had been in real estate in the Atlanta area, just like Abe, although they didn't really know each other at that time. But they had a similar journey where they were fixing and flipping houses. She had several houses that she had bought, rehabbed, and was trying to sell when the housing bubble burst. The banks weren't loaning money, and she went bankrupt. Didn't know what to do, was kind of struggling. And so we helped her kind of rebrand herself. She had Visionary Construction was the name of her company. And we said, well, don't pigeonhole yourself. If you call yourself Visionary Construction, then agencies won't think to buy anything else from you. But there's probably other things you can do. So she rebranded as Visionary Services, although in SAM, she's still Visionary Construction. She just did a DBA, which is absolutely fine. The government is very used to that. Rebranded her website as Visionary Services, and we helped her start getting some certifications. She got her woman-owned, then she got her minority-owned certification, and her first contract was out there at Fort Mac. Any of you in Georgia, you might know where Fort Mac is. She got about a $20,000 repair job out at Fort Mac, and if I remember right, it's a vehicle ran into a building, and so her team went out and repaired that. Then her next contract was with the Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. The airport wanted some new security doors and security cameras in this one area. So she won she got her SBA boss actually called her. Once you become an 8A company, the SBA actually works closely with you. You're assigned what's called a business opportunity specialist, an SBA boss. And so her boss reached out and said, there's a job out at the airport that you might want to look at. So she called Abe and said, hey, I don't know anything about security cameras. She said, we can do the security doors, no problem. You know, we do construction. but I don't know anything about security cameras. And Abe said, remember what we taught you, other people's efforts. Do you think there's a local security camera company in Atlanta that would give you a price to go out and do that? She said, well, sure. Great. Hire them. Have them give you a quote, meet them out at the airport, get a quote for the job, and then mark it up a little bit and add it to your quote. She got that opportunity. She did well, and she added security NAICS codes to her capability statement, to her SAM registration, to her DSBS. She said, okay, I've done security work now. Actually, we told her, you've done security work now, add security, because now you have a little bit of past performance. About 6-8 months later, her SBA boss called her and said, hey, there's a Coast Guard base down in Miami that needs security guards. They've had security guards from a civilian agency for a while, but they haven't been meeting their goal of 5% for minority-owned businesses. So they're going to make it an 8A set-aside this time. And do you want to bid on it because you have security NAICS codes? So she came to Abe and said, I got nothing, Abe. I don't know anything about security guards. Well, the first thing, one of the things that we teach is if a contract's coming up for renewal, always find out who has it now and see what they've been doing and how long they've had it. So Tasha did her research and found a big company in Houston had had the contract for almost 10 years. They won it for 5 years, and they did it. At the 4-year point, they always recompete. They did a good job, so they got it again. It was coming up for renewal again, but this time they weren't allowed to bid on it because it was set aside for a small minority-owned business. And they weren't minority-owned, and they weren't a small business. They were a pretty big company. So Tasha reached out to them. We helped her script it, or Abe. Again, I wasn't there yet. Abe helped her script it and said, would you be interested in partnering with me? We know that you've had this contract for 9 years. It's going to expire. Your contract's going to expire next year. It's set aside for minority-owned business. Would you like to work with us? So Tasha said, I'll bid the contract. I'll be the prime, and you can be the subcontractor. And they're like, well, sure, we're going to lose everything. We might as well do part of it. So they worked together, and she won a $3.1 million contract. Jorge's the person who won his contract the fastest of any of our students. He was in our February of 22 cohort. He actually became a member of GCA in February of 21, or maybe March of 21. Anyway, in 21, Jorge became a member of GCA. Our producer is going to go ahead and put the membership link for those of you who are interested in possibly starting to attend our events and hang out with us. Jorge became a member, and one of his early questions when he met with us was, what should I do? And I told him, well, what are you trying to sell to the government? Is it a product or a service? And he said, well, it's a product. He was in the Army. He's a service-disabled veteran, and he was in the medical corps. So he knew a lot about medical supplies. So we said, well, the most important thing for somebody selling products is having a solid supply chain. If you can't go to the government and tell them who you're going to get wheelchairs from and who you're going to get gloves from and who you're going to get syringes from, if you can't tell the agency who your suppliers are, they're not going to trust you. So he worked on really hard getting his supply chain done. And then in February 22, he took a class called the Certified Capture Manager class, the same class I took back in 17. He took that class, and he was our MIP, which is called most inspirational person. Every time we run a class, the other students and the staff vote on who just played full out, who helped a lot, who brought great energy, and Jorge was voted as our most inspirational person. His business was pretty new, but he had built a solid supply chain over the previous year. So he started the class in February of 22. He graduated in May of 22. And he started working with Abe. After he finished class, he said, Abe, I think I need a little bit more guidance. I'm looking at a couple big projects. So in May of 22, he graduated. In June of 22, he started working with Abe on a big contract. July of 22, he won a $50 million contract. You go, wait a minute, guy. He's a startup company. There's no way a startup company can win a $50 million contract. That's where you need to start understanding the language of the government. Step number one is understanding what an IDIQ is. An IDIQ is what's called indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. So it was the hospital chain. This was actually a state contract. So first thing is it's a 5-year contract. Almost all IDIQ contracts are multi-year. So it was a 5-year contract. So that's only $10 million a year. And most IDIQ contracts are awarded to multiple vendors. So it was Jorge and 3 other companies. So 4 companies won a $50 million contract divided over 5 years. So that means about $2.5 million a year. Last time I talked to Jorge, and it's been 4 or 5 months now, his billing was up to almost $200,000 a month. So when he won the contract in July, in August, he didn't get any orders yet. He was still getting set up. He was still going through the training. And then he got like $20,000, and then he got like $50,000. Now he's up to over $200,000 in billing. So he went from a 0 startup to 2 years later doing almost $250,000 a month in billing. It's very, very doable because he never touches any of the products. If a hospital orders 5 hospital beds, then Jorge assistant orders them from their supplier. The supplier ships it directly to the hospital. Jorge bills them and bills his supplier. This is very doable, folks. You can get big contracts when you understand how to use other people's efforts. Harold is the person who's won the biggest contract at GCA. He was in the September 22 Certified Capture Manager class. Now, he was a pretty good sized company already. He was a valedictorian. He had the highest score throughout the course, and he was doing about $11 million a year. So he was still a small business. In the IT industry, that's still classified as a small business, but he had some financial resources. So he graduated in January of 23, met with Abe and said, hey, I'm looking at growing my business. Can you coach me? They worked together from January through, actually the entire year. But in June, Harold came to Abe, the president of the company, and said, is this a contract you think we should bid on? Just a little bit of background on this contract. It's actually a state of Illinois contract. And what the state did a few years ago is they said, it's silly that every city in Illinois and every county in Illinois and every little municipality in Illinois and every university in Illinois, they all go for separate contracts. So what we're going to do is we're going to reach out to everybody in the state of Illinois that buys IT services. And we're going to ask them, in a year, what is every possible thing you can buy? Every piece of hardware you can buy, every cybersecurity you could get, every custom software you could get. What is everything that if you had unlimited funds, what would you buy? And they all sent those wish lists almost to the state. The state compiled it and turned it into an RFP that said, how much would you charge us to do everything? And it was written in there, there's no year that we're ever going to do everything. 1, we don't have the budget. 2, we don't have the bandwidth. But if every city, every county, every college, everybody in the state of Illinois purchased everything, how much would it be? They came up with a price of $86 million. Harold has a teaming partner and a couple of subcontractors. There's 4 companies working on this contract. They said, we would charge you $86 million a year if you wanted everything. And the state said, okay. Then they said the first year, you're probably going to get about 20% because we have to ramp everything up. So we have current IT vendors that we're going to be winding down. You're going to be picking up some of this load. So this year, it looks like he's going to do about $16 million. We're not quite to the end of the first year. He actually didn't even start delivering services until October. But based on what we're seeing now, he's probably going to make about $16 million the first year. They told him after that, once he gets stabilized, it'd probably be about 30% of the contract, which is about $25 million a year. So not bad for somebody who knew nothing about government contracting, joined GCA, went through our class, and a year later, from the time he started the class until he won his first contract, multi-million dollar contract. So how do you get started? Well, as our producer, Mr. Herbert, put the membership link in the chat box a little while ago, so it's still there. You can feel free to scroll back, or you can put it in there again. That is how you join GCA. Membership is very simple to join. It's very simple to join. You go through an onboarding process. We have a video series. We have some tools for you. And then you meet with a coach and they'll start helping you develop a strategy. You start deciding what certifications you might want to get. We highly encourage you to get the Certified Capture Manager designation, which is the class I took back in 2017, because it gives you credibility, it gives you tools, it gives you information, and then learn to write proposals. If you're like me and doesn't like to write proposals, we even have a proposal writing team that can do it for you. So there's pretty much nothing in the government space we can't help you with. So what is a contract worth? Well, to Tasha, her first big contract was about $3 million. To Jorge, this contract over the next 5 years is probably going to be somewhere around 10, possibly even $15 million. And he just, like 2 months ago, he hasn't started it yet, but he just won part of a $75 million IDIQ contract. It's a very, very similar contract. So he now has a 50 million, part of a 50 million and part of a $75 million contract. And he was a brand new business 3 years ago. And then to Harold, we don't know exactly what it's going to be worth, but it's going to be at least worth $200 or $300 million over the next 10 years. This is very doable, folks. None of these people knew anything about government contracting a year before they won their first big contract. Membership's only $5.99, so you can skip a Starbucks a week probably and pay for that. So you got the link there in the chat. If you would like to go click on that and or at least copy and paste it, and then when the event's over, you can just join. It's very simple to do. There's different memberships. You can click on it and register with us. So what are some of the memberships of benefits of becoming a GCA member? Well, you're going to get a bunch of tools. One of the links that you're going to get in your welcome email is what's called the resources page. There's all kinds of templates in there. There's ideas, there's thought processes. There's a bunch of very cool information. You can sit in on advanced training. We regularly do different trainings. When ChatGPT came out, we did training on how to use it for your government contracting. When the 8A program changed last year, we did training. Within 2 weeks, we did a training on that to make sure that there wasn't confusion, so you knew how to navigate the new processes. Each year, near the end of Q3, we do a training on how to take advantage of Q4 spending. The government spends more money in Q4 than any other time of the year. So how do you take advantage of that? So we're doing all kinds of advanced training. We do industry networking events. We work with different groups. Our corporate office is in Atlanta. And so recently we did a networking event with Atlanta Black Chambers, which are several. ABC has several chapters, and their veterans came together. Our veterans came together, and we taught veterans how to get certified as a veteran or a service-disabled veteran-owned business. So we have networking events. Some of them we host, some of them other people host, and we bring our members with us. We do capture management trainings. You can sit in on those and watch what the capture managers are actually learning. You'll get a strategic assessment. A coach will meet with you and help you decide which direction you should go based on what we know and based on what your desires are. And then you're going to get something called a bid matching platform that we're going to look at here in just a minute. And again, you get all of that for $5.99 a year. $50 a month is a joke. It's what, $1.10 a day or something like that for all of these tools to help you start winning government contracts. So as I said, that bid matching platform is called GovGenie. It is a sister company to GCA. We don't own it, but it is a sister company. We were involved when they were first kind of getting started up. We helped them with a lot of information. And there's a few areas that is very useful. First place, it's laid out kind of like LinkedIn. So there is a social aspect. Different people will post information in here about things that are going on. They'll post new rules that are happening in the government space. We've had some of our clients, because it is a social network, we've had some of our clients say, hey, I'm looking for a teaming partner in logistics, or I'm looking for a teaming partner in IT, different things like that. So there's a social aspect. But the cool thing is up here under opportunities, you can click on that and you can start looking for opportunities for yourself. So you go over here, and one of the main NAICS codes for people like Samuel is 541511. That's called custom computer programming. So you click on that, and then a whole bunch of opportunities will come up. In this case, there's 10 per page and there's 214 pages. So there's about 2,000 opportunities in the IT industry. So you start reading through them and saying, oh, is that something I could do? Is that something I could do? Contractor technical support, preventative maintenance, and corrective maintenance. So you start going through these and think, is this something I can do? Interagency pass modernization. Yeah, I'd like to do that. So you click on it and you say, or at least it intrigues me. You come over here and it tells you what they're looking for, the scope of work, what they're going to need. You read through it and you go, yeah, this is something I think I would be interested in. Then what you do is you add it to your bid board. Your bid board is similar to, like if you ever use Pipedrive or Salesforce or something like that, is a customer relationship management, but it's specifically set up to help you in the government space. It tells you who the contracting officer is, Timothy Wynn, what his phone number is. If you want to read the whole solicitation, that's right here. And you add that to your bid board. When you do that, come on, Internet. It comes over here in the evaluation stage. So you're not sure you want to bid on it yet, but you expand it, you read through it, and you go, yeah, that is something that I might like to do. So then what you do is you put it over here in the scoping, and you start looking for partners. Maybe you can't do it all on your own. So one of the things that pops up is your bid decision matrix. It helps you decide, should I even bid on this? So you say, can we meet the proposal date? Yeah. How long do we have? We have about 3 weeks. So we put that number over here. Do you have the required past performance? Absolutely. Or I have a teaming partner that does. Am I known to the client? Well, maybe I don't know these guys yet. I have, maybe I sent them one email, or maybe I don't know them at all, so my score is pretty low. What's your technical capability? This is what I do. I've been doing it a long time. Can I have proof of qualified staff? Absolutely. I have awesome people. So you just keep going through each of these and you mark them whatever the answer is. You keep marking them. And when you're all done, it will tell you what your chance of winning. Now, this is statistical, obviously, but in this case, if we had answered these questions legitimately, we'd have about a 63% chance of winning. So then we have to say, is that worth it to me? Well, let's see. It's a pretty big contract. It's right in my wheelhouse. Yeah, I want to go ahead and do that. Or you can say, no, 63% is a little bit low. I don't think I'm going to bid on that. So once you do that, now you can say, yes, I do want to bid on it. Now you drag it over here to drafting. And this is where you can actually start sharing with your teaming partners. So if you have subcontractors, you have teaming partners, and they need to give you some pricing, or they need to write up part of the performance criteria, different things like that, then you can invite them to join you, and it's a shared document space. So you don't need a Google Doc, you don't need to use Dropbox. Everything is stored right in here. Then you submit it, and if you win that contract, then you put it under one. If you didn't win it, you put it under lost, or maybe you decide that, once we got into it, it was just a little bit more work than we wanted to do. We've decided we're not going to bid on it. And so you can move it over here. So being part of GCA, that GovGenie sells for $99 a month or $1,188 a year. But if you're a member of GCA, which is half that price, $599, you get GovGenie for free. So it's almost a no-brainer. And the last thing we're going to talk about is our premier coaching program or class program. It's a class I took back in 2017. Our producer, Mr. Herbert, took it back. Took it about 4 years ago. It's a class that really does set you up for success. As we said, capture managers are really sales reps in the government space. So it's for people who are already doing sales, but would like some more tools. Maybe they'd like a designation. We all know that a bookkeeper makes a certain amount of money, but a CPA makes more money. We know that an RN makes a certain amount of money, but an MD, medical doctor, makes more money. So sometimes getting extra skill sets, getting extra knowledge will help you earn more money. So sometimes sales reps that are already in the government space want to up their skill level and want to get a certification. Most of our clients are small businesses who either want to improve their success in the government space. Maybe they won a few contracts, or maybe they haven't won any contracts at all, and they say, this is what I need. I really need that foundation. And then sometimes we'll have sales people come, and they'll say, I'm doing IT sales or logistics sales or construction sales in the commercial market, but I've heard sales reps make more in the government space. And that is absolutely true. Sales reps in the government space make more than sales reps in the commercial market because it's very specialized, because not that many people speak the language, not that many people know how to connect effectively with government agencies. And so people who have that skill set and knowledge make more money than sales reps in the commercial sector. So the Capture Management Program is designed to give you information, tools, and earn that designation CCM. For any of you who have ever heard the title Project Manager, of PMP, our system follows along. I'm not going to say we jacked the PMP model, but we did look at how they grew. The PMI, Project Management Institute, started back in the 70s. It's about 50 years old now. And we kind of looked at their growth and why they grew and what they did. And we modeled a lot of what we do after the PMP model. We do ask you to set aside 15 weeks. It's actually a 12-week class, but there's usually a little bit of pre-work. Then there's the 12 weeks, and then there's some post-work, and then there's a graduation. And what it really does is it gives you everything you need. It gives you the technical knowledge. It gives you the relationship building knowledge. It gives you the templates, pretty much everything that you need to win government contracts. When you graduate, you earn the designation of Certified Capture Manager. And you say, well, okay, Guy, there's other companies out there that help companies win contracts. And you're absolutely right. However, we are the only company that I've ever found, and it's possible that there's somebody that I haven't found yet, but I don't think so, because I spend a lot of time in the government sector. We are the only company that is registered as a college, just like every one of these universities. We carry the exact same designation. Our corporate office is in Georgia, and we carry the exact same designation as all of these colleges. Took us 2 years to get certified, and then every year we have to get recertified and verify that we're doing a good job, that our clients are being successful, that there's no complaints against us. We've never had a complaint with the Better Business Bureau. We've never had a complaint with the State of Georgia Post-Secondary Education. So if you're going to work with somebody, you want to make sure they have a good reputation. So what are you going to receive? As I said, there's actually 12 weeks of training. It's about 120 hours of total curriculum. You do get that Gov Fast Track software that we talked about, the 960 rows of templates, tools, information, useful websites. You get a learning management system with 15 self-paced modules, and they go along with the class. So every week we have a live class. It's either on Thursday nights or Tuesday nights. And you come to class. You have an instructor who teaches you. It's 6 to 8 on the East Coast or 3 to 5 on the West Coast. You come to class for 2 hours. You have a lab every week. This learning management system reinforces what you learned in class. You have access to a Gov Training Vault. So let's say that we're in week 5 or 6. You find an opportunity that you think would be awesome to bid on, but we haven't taught you proposals yet. That's week 8 and 9 of the CCM class. So you go into the Gov Training Vault, and we have hundreds of hours of past videos. So you watch one of those videos, and it helps you with a lot of the information you need. You get a coach and you get a study partner, and you have to be interviewed to get into the program. This is actually my CCM class back in 2017. That's Nyanza, Cynthia, Deb, Cheryl, Gerald. Abe was the instructor, and I was in the class. And what's fun is we started the class last Thursday. Gerald's daughter is now in the class. Gerald and I have stayed close over the last 7 years. We were in the CCM class, and we followed each other, each other's careers. We've helped each other out. And he's 70 now, and he's looking at turning over the reins of his company to his daughter, who is 42. And she started our CCM class last week. So it's really kind of fun, full circle. You do get a certificate that if you work for a company, you can put that in your HR file. You can use that when you're meeting with companies to show that you have invested in yourself, that you know the language, that you are a certified capture manager. The program is $10,000. However, if you're a member of GCA, it's only $6,000. So remember, membership's only $599. So you pay $599 and you save $4,000. We've never actually had anybody pay the $10,000 yet. Somebody probably will someday, but it would be pretty silly because you pay $599 and you get a $4,000 discount. Now, we did have a class start last Thursday, and class 2 is tomorrow. So if you are really interested, if you say, this is for me, Guy, I really would like to do this, let me know, because tomorrow is the deadline. It's the last class that you can join and still take advantage of this. Our next class starts on June 18th. If it's too quick for you to start tomorrow, but for those of you who say, you know, I'm ready to do this, then let me know and we can get you into that class that started last week. Your first class would be tomorrow. We have all kinds of payment plans and different programs. And so if you decide you really want to do this, don't let money hold you back. Get on my calendar tomorrow, and I'll actually put my email in the chat box also, in case you don't see a calendar spot that fits for you, but you're really interested in having a conversation with me, then you can hop on my calendar, or you can hop on my email, contractwars.org. So that's my email. So if you would like to reach out to me and say, hey, Guy, I'm pretty busy tomorrow. Can we have a phone call? Or you don't have a spot that matches my calendar, because I do have a lot of meetings tomorrow already. But if you're interested, get a hold of me. We'll figure out a way to get you into the class. Okay. So book a time on my calendar. Mr. Herbert, our producer, just put my calendar link in the chat. So feel free to grab that calendar link, click on that. It will open up some time slots, and you can set a time to chat with me. So as I said, your timing is excellent. Now is the time, because we did start a class just last week. And so, yeah, you just happen to be here. Actually, you actually here the week after class started. I have a typo there. So now's the time. Another thing I wanted to do for you, though, is I wanted to show you a strategy that a lot of people don't understand the process. Most companies that come to us think that they're going to register in SAM and their first contract is going to be a prime contract. And that's only true about 10 to maybe 15% of the time. The majority of companies' first contracts are actually subcontracts. And here's why. The government awards about $700 billion a year, and 77% of that is open competition. Anybody can bid on that. So IBM can bid on it. Lockheed can bid on it. Boeing, Home Depot, Hewlett Packard, all these large companies can bid on these contracts. 23% are set aside for small businesses, though. Only smaller companies are allowed to bid on them. And we talked earlier about some of the set-asides here, about HubZone and 8A and women-owned businesses. But what a lot of people don't understand is when a large business wins a contract over $750,000, they have to give 35% of that to small businesses. So how do you find those businesses winning contracts? How do you build that relationship? And like I say, a lot of you are going to get your first contract as a subcontract, which is awesome. You don't have to find the opportunity. You don't have to write the proposal. You don't have to schedule everything. The large business takes care of a lot of that, but it allows you to start building past performance. So really understanding that subcontracting opportunity is going to be critical in your growth in the government space. And the last thing that we're going to do before we give our last free gift is understanding the relationships that are going to be critical for you. So the first one here is at the top. These are people who need your products or services. This might be a logistics officer that at a military base that needs to move products needs to move some vehicles or some weapons or something from one place to another. It might be a doctor over at the CDC. It might be a IT manager for Health and Human Services, and they need to upgrade their cybersecurity. So these people need your products or services. These people, the contracting officers, are allowed to award the contract. So that's why you have all of these arrows going between, is everything is interconnected here. So you need to have a relationship with the end users to find out what they need, but you need to have a relationship with contracting officers so they want to choose you as the company who's going to buy something or who's going to meet those needs. Then you also have what's called small business advocates. These are people that either work for the SBA that will help you get into government contracting, or remember we said that government agencies are required to give 23% of their contracting dollars to small businesses. This is where, this is how they do it. Every agency is required to have an office specifically designed to help small businesses work with them. So how do you find the OSTABU? How do you build that relationship? Then the large primes. We already told you they have to give 35% of their contracting dollars to small businesses. How do you connect with those large primes so you become their favorite and they want to give you that money? How do you connect with other small businesses? Maybe you're a service-disabled veteran-owned business, but you see an awesome opportunity, but it's set aside for a woman-owned business. So maybe you partner with them so that you can use their set-aside or they can use your set-aside. Maybe you partner because it's a big project. It requires 6 project managers, and you only have 3 available right now. You partner with another small business, and you do the job together. So there's a lot of reasons that you'll want to work with other small businesses like yourself. Or we saw an opportunity last year that was data analytics and cybersecurity. Well, one of our clients does data analytics, but they don't do cybersecurity. We helped them find a partner that did cybersecurity, and they bid on the contract together. Remember, you don't have to do everything. Other people's efforts. And the last one is your internal government team. These are the people that you're going to start bringing on as you grow. We'll help you choose, when do you bring on a proposal writer? When do you bring on a research specialist? When do you bring on a capture manager? So you need to start building relationships with people in these different industries, so as you need them, you're not scrambling to find them. And the last thing is your free gift. We'll be sending this out to you. This is in a PowerPoint. So if you do IT, you can remove this picture of this kitchen. This was actually laid out for one of our clients who did kitchen supplies, kitchen equipment. You would remove this and you might put a server rack. If you did logistics, you might put a trucking yard. If you did janitorial or facilities management, you might put something like that. All of this, you put your NAICS codes. This is laid out in a way that several contracting officers, we've tweaked it probably 30 times since we developed it 7 years ago. And we keep getting input from contracting officers say, we like this, we want that. If you move this, we want it to be easy. So you're going to get this as a template and you can use it as a shell. It's very easy to update. It will be sent to you as a PowerPoint and you can make all of those changes. As I said, we do spend 90 minutes together. I'm going to stop sharing. And we'll open it up for any other questions that you might have. We do want to leave it. We usually try to leave about 3 to 5 minutes at the end in case anybody has any questions. And so feel free to put any questions you have in the chat, and we'll see if we can answer those. If you've got all your questions answered and you feel like it's time for you to drop off, feel free. If you have not given us your email address, and I think most of you have, but if you came on a little bit later and we didn't get your email address, please make sure that you put your email address in the chat. We'll get you the free gifts, and we'll get you a recording of these videos, especially if you join later partway through and you missed the beginning. You'll want to get a copy of this recording. So go ahead and put your email address in the chat box. If you have any questions, put it there. If you have no questions and you've already given us an email address, you can feel free to drop off or hang with us. We will stay here until the bottom of the hour, which is a couple more minutes. So I certainly do appreciate you being with us, and appreciate you asking questions, sharing your email so we can get you the gifts. And we'll just hang out here for a couple more minutes to see if you have any other questions. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Herbert, our producer did just put the link for the Certified Capture Manager class. So if you've got some questions, you can go there. Thank you, Mr. Jonathan. Yeah, feel free to reach out to us and we can talk about how insurance companies can work in the government space. Perfect. I see some people are just joining now. We are wrapping up the session. If you would like a copy of the recording, this started an hour and a half ago, 90 minutes ago. If you're just joining us now, I see a couple people just joined. Then go ahead and put your email in the chat box, and we will get you a copy of the recording. Are there opportunities if you have a DoD? Absolutely. A lot of opportunities that come out say you must have a secret, you must have a confidential, you must have a top secret. So sometimes it will say must be able to get a secret clearance, but the challenge is that it takes companies too long to get it, and so they don't get to bid on it. So if you already have a secret clearance, you absolutely have a leg up on, and your secret clearance will work for other agencies also. If you have a secret clearance with the DoD, and maybe Homeland Security has a project that needs a secret clearance, your secret clearance with the DoD will be useful, Delino. That's a great question. All right, we are at the bottom of the hour. We do want to honor everybody's time, so we will now end our podcast. We appreciate you being here. You do have the events sign-up link. Go ahead and put it in the chat one more time. Mr. Herbert, go ahead and put the events link. That way you can stay on top of all the other events that we have coming up. We have usually about 3 to 4 trainings every week on something, and we would love to have you join us on future events. So go ahead and click on that link, go to our events page, and see if there's something you'd like to register for. Everybody make it an amazing day. Thanks, Delino. Thanks, everyone.